Tom Dupree right now, the former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Whether there is a special master or not approved by the judge, this case still comes down to, was Donald Trump on the up and up with federal authorities when he had said that he didn't have any documents when he did, and furthermore, down the road to say when documents were voluntarily turned over, that was it, and there were more, so that it was lying, and that's what it comes down to. Is that what the DOJ is looking at, that this is a simple case of obstruction, much more than just having documents in hand, but lying about it?
I think that's exactly right, Neil. I mean, clearly right now, the Justice Department is focused like a laser on the obstruction question. And an obstruction case is notoriously easy to prove. I mean, you can just simply say, the lawyer told me A was false. They knew it was false. There's your obstruction case. I think what we're going to hear today is a question that's really a little not directly related to that underlying question. What we're going to hear today is whether or not the judge is going to appoint a special master, which I don't think is really going to affect the bottom line outcome of this case as much as it might delay the proceedings by a few months.
So how would it delay it? It gives the special master time to review the documents or everything that Justice has, but Justice took the documents that obviously the Trump team knows were there, so there's no mystery to what's missing, right?
There's no mystery there, but usually the way this would work is that the special master would go through the documents, and during the time the special master was reviewing the documents, the Justice Department would be prevented from looking at the documents. So the Justice Department really wouldn't be able to dive in and start reviewing the documents until the special master had completed his or her work.
Well, what if the Justice Department's already done that?
Well, and they have already done that. And that's, I think, one of their arguments. They say, hey, look, the horse not only has left the barn, but it's running across the pasture and it's down the road. This is too little too late. You should have been here the day after the search warrant was executed. That's something the Trump lawyers are going to have to argue back against in today's hearing.
This obstruction thing, I'm going to get back to that and whether that is something that, Justice will pursue or Attorney General Garland will go ahead and recommend they pursue. It's fraught with great risk because it's different, we're told, when it's a former president of the United States. Of course, this is unprecedented, I grant you, but what did you make of that?
Yeah, I totally agree that the analysis is different. I mean, if it's an obstruction case against, a lawyer or a normal civilian, that's one thing. Former president, totally different considerations come into play. I think one of the most important considerations is simply whether the actual crime, assuming it was a crime, is sufficiently important, sufficiently damaging to our national security as to warrant the even more extraordinary step of indicting a former president. If the documents aren't super classified, if you could argue there wasn't really a lot of damage to our national security, I think that would make a prosecution of President Trump that much harder.
All right, now, so the DOJ says this is a waste of time to go get a special master. I get that and all of that. They also said in the course of going through the said documents that there were several there that would involve, attorney-client privilege and the like. How would they know that?
Well, they will bring in a special team. It's known as a taint team or a filter team that will look at the documents. And a lot of times, if it's an attorney-client privilege document, you can just tell from the face of the document because it would be, for example, a memorandum to Trump from a lawyer. And you could say, look, this is clearly attorney-client privilege, and it gets put in a special pile. And the DOJ prosecutors who would actually be considering bringing charges are never even going to see that document. That's why you have the taint team that basically filters out those types of documents from the documents the prosecutors themselves will actually see.
If charges were to come, we're often told that they would wait until after the election. But what if Donald Trump is part of that election? Let's say he's elected president again. Then what?
Well, then it becomes even more complicated. Although if Donald Trump were president, then presumably he would have an attorney general who might see the world a little differently than Merrick Garland does when it comes to actually deciding whether to indict. You've also got the problem where it's been the Justice Department's position that you can't criminally indict a sitting president, that the only constitutional remedy for a president who misbehaves is impeachment. So they would have to navigate that issue, too.
So this would be yet another reason. I know you don't wade into politics, and astutely so, but this could be another reason to buttress the argument that he runs for president.
It could be. I mean, look, I think if you're Merrick Garland, you figure right now you're not going to be doing anything in the next 2 months or so before the midterms. Once the midterms happen, then you're going to have, I mean, I don't want to say a window of opportunity, but if you're putting on your Merrick Garland hat, it would be the window of opportunity before President Trump becomes an elected official again. If you were thinking about bringing criminal charges, that's presumably the time period in which you would do it.
But 2 years can go by lickety-split in legal arguments back and forth. They can drag on forever, right?
Absolutely. And this is far from a simple case. I can promise you, if charges are ultimately brought, it will be the battle of the century.
Wild. Tom, I always enjoyed. Thank you. Tom Dupree, the former deputy assistant attorney general, I should say. By the way,